In Louisiana, the death of high school senior Blakeleigh Weems after a car crash during New Year's Eve finally leads to an arrest. In Las Vegas, a man sues the Venetian Hotel and Casino after he is bitten on, well, just wait till you hear this story. And in Detroit, the trial of James Crumley begins. These stories and more coming at you today, Friday, March 8th on Real Life Real Crime Daily, and I'm Jim Chapman.
And I'm Mike Agavino, and the guy in the middle was skipped because, unfortunately, guys, Woody had to, his father took ill last night, and so Woody had to be with him today. Hopefully it's nothing serious. We don't know anything yet, but he's not going to be with us today, and our thoughts and prayers are with him and his family.
That's right.
Okay, Jim, so let's get in some crime time for a Freaky Friday. What kind of Friday is it?
It'd be a Freaky Friday.
Some crime time for a Freaky Friday.
All right, and we're going to start off in Louisiana, and Walker Sr. Blakeleigh Weems. This was an accident that occurred, and actually we're not going to call it an accident. It was a car crash that occurred on it was the early morning hours of New Year's Day. Actually, it was 1 o'clock in the morning. She was at a traffic light coming off of an exit ramp into the city of Denham Springs on what's known as Range Avenue. And another driver was heading north on Range Avenue, which crosses the interstate off-ramp, and collided with Weems' car on the driver's side. Weems died as a result of that crash, and it was a tragic event that really, y'all, touched the entire community here in Livingston Parish. But throughout the state, this became a huge concern, primarily because there was not a whole lot of information after. Of course, police have to investigate these things, and they did not release hardly any information for quite a while. And they have released a statement finally on this case, and this was released on March 6th. And it came from the Denham Springs Police Department, and I'm going to read that statement. It's very important to give you all the facts here. The Denham Springs Police Department responded to a motor vehicle crash on January 1st, 2024 at 1 a.m. at the intersection of I-12 and South Range Avenue involving two vehicles. The crash did result in a fatality. TSPD investigators determined a female juvenile was operating a white Honda Civic, came to a stop at the intersection of the off-ramp in South Range Avenue. The driver proceeded to make a right turn onto Range Avenue to travel northbound from a no-turn on red lane. Investigators believe while attempting to turn northbound with a red light, the Honda Civic was struck on the driver's side by a Honda Accord traveling northbound. The investigation revealed that the Honda Accord traveling northbound was traveling in excess of 25 miles per hour over the 45 mile per hour speed limit. So that's 70 miles an hour, y'all. When the vehicles made impact. Toxicology results revealed the driver of the Honda Accord, now identified as Sean Robinson from Baton Rouge, had a post-crash blood alcohol content of 0.09 and also tested positive for the presence of marijuana in his blood. The female juvenile's toxicology report showed no presence of alcohol or illegal drugs in her blood. The Denham Springs PD was assisted by the Sheriff's Office in Livingston Parish, and they did what's known as a crash reconstruction. DSPD doesn't have their own crash reconstruction team, so they defaulted that to the Livingston Parish Sheriff's Office, and that's how they were able to determine everything from where the cars made impact to the speed, which was very important in that case. And all the while awaiting results from blood tests, et cetera, to get this alcohol content hammered down. But an arrest has been made, and you know, what a tragedy for all of us that have, you know, kids. That's your worst nightmare to begin with.
Well, and I take that exact exit every time I come up to the studio to record with you guys, and 70 miles per hour at that spot is so reckless. I mean, I can't imagine what's going on in somebody's head when they're coming through that. I don't care if it's 1 o'clock in the morning, 70 miles an hour. You're going under the interstate. You have people exiting from both ends of, and also using the ramps to get on I-12 from both sides. And there's some uncomfortable, mergings that go on. There's a weird lane that breaks off and takes you to the left. It's not a place that you go fast.
Yeah.
Like I've never, and I come in at a tremendously early hour. And so it's not like I'm on traffic in traffic on this ramp. You got to go slow.
All right.
And you got to make sure that you're looking both ways to make sure nobody's coming. But I've never seen anybody come fast through there because it's just such a obvious common sense. You can't drive fast there. And that's just 70 miles per hour is out of control for that spot.
It really is. And he was charged, incidentally, with second offense DWI. So this isn't even his first rodeo, in addition to vehicular homicide. So there's finally information out on that, and obviously tragic loss. And there's nothing I could say to that family to make it any better, but all I can do is pray, and that's what I do for them.
Yeah. And it becomes 2 lives lost. I don't know the kid. He may very well have been a decent kid, but you just one irresponsible moment like that, and your whole entire life changes.
Yeah, and there's too many options out there if you're drinking, to get a ride home. Then
especially that night,
drive.
New Year's
especially
Eve,
that night.
getting a
That's
freaking
right.
Uber. Ugh.
Spark something uncommon this holiday with just the right gift from Uncommon Goods. The busy holiday season is here, and Uncommon Goods makes it less stressful with incredible hand-picked gifts for everyone on your list, all in one spot. Gifts to spark joy, wonder, delight, and that's exactly what I wanted feeling. Hey, y'all, I ordered a super cool piece. It's a candle with a sculpture of LSU's Tiger Stadium on top of it. And each officially licensed laser cut wooden replica features up to 4 layers of detail, creating a bird's eye view of a specific football field, seating section, and more. And every label includes your stadium's name, the team's logo, and school location. And it has a coconut, soy, vegan wax infused with sandalwood smell that creates tailgates and touchdowns scent profile, reminiscent of game day. It's invigorating like fresh cut grass and nostalgic like smoke from a pre-game grill, and calming like the crisp autumn air of a new semester on campus. Y'all, I love it. I have it at the base of my TV, and I'm ready to watch the Tigers play on Saturday night, right? Uncommon Goods. Look, when you shop at Uncommon Goods, you're supporting artists and small independent businesses. And many of their handcrafted products are made in small batches. So shop now before they sell out this holiday season. Uncommon Goods looks for products that are high quality, unique, and often handmade or made in the U.S. They have the most meaningful, out of the ordinary gifts anywhere. They even have gifts you can personalize. From holiday hosts and hostess gifts to the coolest finds for kids, to hits for everyone from the book lovers to diehard sports fans. Uncommon Goods has something for everyone, not the same old selections you can just find anywhere. And with every purchase you make at Uncommon Goods, they give $1 to a nonprofit partner of your choice. They've donated more than $3 million to date. So to get 15% off your next gift, go to uncommongoods.com/RLRC. That's uncommongoods.com/RLRC for 15% off. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. Uncommon Goods, we're all out of the ordinary. Hey ladies, are you feeling overwhelmed by hormonal changes? Well, you're definitely not alone. There are more than 1,000 hormone disruptors living in our environment right now. It's in your food, your water, the air you breathe, the clothes you wear, your skincare products. They all mess with your hormones. Then there's the natural hormone changes your body goes through, premenopause, menopause. And while it's a natural process, it doesn't mean you have to suffer through it. The good news is You don't have to suffer through it anymore because now you have Hormone Harmony, a formula made only with herbal ingredients that are shown to reduce hormonal symptoms in women of all ages. Hormone Harmony is not just a hormone support and supplement. It's become a phenomenon. Women can't stop talking about it on social media. A bottle of Hormone Harmony is sold every 24 seconds. And the biggest benefit? Well, my wife says it makes her feel like her own self again. And that's what women mention over and over in the reviews. And there are over 30,000 reviews for Hormone Harmony. And for a limited time, you can get 15% off your entire first order at happymammoth.com. Just use code RLRC at checkout. That's happymammoth.com and use code RLRC for 15% off today. That's happymammoth.com and use code RLRC.
Okay, well, let's go to Detroit, and we're going to revisit a story that has been in the news for years now because it all relates back to the 2021 high school shooting by Ethan Crumley at Oxford High School outside of Detroit. You may recall that last month, his mother was put on trial. That's Jennifer Crumley, and she was found guilty on 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter. They separated the mother's trial from the father's. The father's name is James, and James is now on trial, and they are going through the jury selection process right now. And this case has major implications or potential major implications beyond the obvious ones confined to just this situation in Detroit, and Jim and I'll get into that a little bit. But so the trial's about to happen. James Crumley's the father of school shooter Ethan Crumley. To remind you, Ethan shot and killed 4 students and injured 7 others at Oxford High School, which is just outside of Detroit, in 2021. One of those injured was a teacher. He was 15 years old at the time, Ethan. He pleaded guilty to all charges against him and has been sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. In sort of at least a first of as it pertains to school shootings, and not a case like in Virginia Beach where we had the 6-year-old bring the gun to school and the mother was charged. This is the first actual mass school shooting where the parents have been charged as well as the child that committed the crimes. And Jennifer, as I said, was up first, and she was found guilty. And that conviction marked the first time a parent had ever been held responsible in a mass shooting and may have opened a Pandora's box on this type of prosecution, and only time will tell. But on the heels of Jennifer's conviction comes the trial of James. We covered the case during Jennifer's trial pretty extensively, I think, and now James, could become even more significant from a precedent standpoint if he is convicted. And it would seem to make logical sense that if one parent was convicted a month ago and the second parent is now facing the same exact charges, that likely James faces a strong possibility of being convicted here as well. But taking you back to the case, the reason why the parents were charged here is that Ethan Crumley had exhibited very concerning behavior. You could say for years, but certainly for months prior to the shooting, and specifically days prior to the killings, including the day of the killings, and the behavior of the parents, the lack of responsibility taken by the parents, the lack of effort to get their son any kind of help. All of that is really what drove the charges against the 2 parents. So on the actual day of the shootings, both Jennifer and James Crumley were called into the school by school administrators, and they were shown drawings of Ethan had made in class that were very disturbing. And basically, he was begging for help in the drawings. In the drawings, literally, one of them said "help," but also he drew a school shooting scene. And so you have someone who's drawing that kind of a scene, who's asking for help, and the school at that point in that meeting really handled it more like an intervention and said, you have to get him help. If you don't get him help, we are bringing Child Protective Services in and going that route. And the parents at that point consented to getting him help, but they made the really strange decision of not leaving school with him in that moment. They left him in school that day. Well, Ethan already had the gun stashed in the school, a gun, incidentally, that was purchased by his father just weeks earlier and purchased with and this is a little bit of a debate, but with the idea certainly that it was bought for Ethan, that it was Ethan's gun. And so that'll be a big part of the case, just like it was with Jennifer. So we all know what happened once they left Ethan in school that day. So the weapon used in those killings, as I said, was recently bought by his father, and his mother had praised Ethan in a text days before all of this happened, in a situation where he had deceived a teacher, and basically she condoned him lying to people at the school, and so that played heavily into her case. And look, any parent, I think, any responsible parent that looks at the behavior of these two parents in this case, I have a hard time thinking that they shouldn't be held accountable. There was every indication that they had a major problem on their hands with this kid. They didn't do anything to address it. The school approached it at first semi-aggressively, and then in the end very aggressively, but it was too late by the time the school addressed it. So the jury selection process started, and something really unique and different than at least what is supposed to happen during jury selection happened, and that is some tactics that were used by the defense in questioning the prospective jurors, and a fight that broke out, verbal, not physical, between prosecutors and the defense team over the way in which the defense team was questioning these jurors. So the defense attorney, Mario Lehman, zeroed in on perhaps the most damning allegation in the case, that James Crumley gifted Ethan this gun. To attack this narrative, Lehman asked multiple prospective jurors the following questions. If a parent buys a car for their teenager, and tells the child and their friends they just gifted their kid a car, does that mean that the kid really owns it, or do the parents own it? Multiple jurors said that they had done just that same thing, gifted their teenagers cars, but they were really the owners and could take away the keys anytime they saw fit. Lehman also focused on mental illness and asked prospective jurors to consider if it's easy to tell if someone is depressed or suffering from a mental illness, or can people battling such problems, particularly teenagers, hide these things? Multiple people said such illnesses can be hard to see. Lehman also zeroed in on the issue that has captured international attention, which is the parenting issue. She asked 15 prospective jurors sitting in the box how many with kids believe they are perfect parents, and nobody raised their hand. She also asked how many believed that they as parents, or that their parents, tried their best even when they made mistakes, and everyone's hand went up. And so at that point, she also got into the issue of what it means to intentionally give someone access to something versus passive access. The prosecution has alleged that James gave his son easy access to this gun, but James has denied that, maintaining that it was hidden, unloaded in an armoire, and that the bullets were stored in a separate location in a drawer not a part of the armoire. So Lehman asked the prospective jurors to weigh in on what it means to give someone access to something and offer their opinions on what it means to have a gun properly stored. And so at that point, it got pretty aggressive between prosecution and the defense, and the judge actually stopped the process cold at that point. So we'll see. They've got 500 people, I think they've called in order to sort through and try and seat 12 jurors. This is a different tack than the mother's defense attorney took, and so we'll see if that has any impact on any of this. But I think the big thing to me here is that I do think this is a case where the parents should be held accountable. One already has been, and I think it's likely that James will be. My concern is that this then becomes Pandora's box opened, and in every school shooter case from here on, there's going to be an immediate analysis of what the parents knew, when they knew it, what steps could have been taken, et cetera, et cetera. And we all know, because we are seeing it in real time, that we've got basically O.J. Simpson juries forming all over the country, and it's about many times the jurisdiction that you are being tried in, not the facts of the case that are determining outcomes. And so I just get scared that this box gets opened and parents are going to be held accountable for not necessarily school shootings, but any number of crimes committed by their kids that they could be blamed for if we're going to make these kind of decisions to hold parents accountable for the actions of their kids. And so, Jim, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Oh, I do, actually. And look, this wasn't a 10-year-old. This kid was
15,
almost an adult. He was 3 years from being an adult. And a lot of times it may be news to a lot of people out there, but you can get all the help you want and bad shit still happen. School shooting in Florida, one of the worst school shootings of all time at the high school in Florida. That kid had been in therapy for years before he committed that crime. So do you hold the therapist responsible and say, well, you were in therapy sessions with him and he was expressing this stuff and, you're responsible. It is such a tough thing. And I look at it from both perspectives. I look at it from the parents' perspective of, hey, none of us as parents want to believe anything's wrong with our kids, especially to that level. And so, first of all, it's a hard thing to admit to yourself. It's an even harder thing to reach out for help because us as parents feel like we should be able to handle that, right? We know our kid better than anybody else. Now, this is a little different for me in the fact that he had these drawings, for example, which are a huge warning sign. But I have a question on that with, no, his parents did not take him out of school that day. Why did the school let him stay there? I wouldn't have let him stay there if I was the principal of that school. I'd have said, he's going home. We don't want him here until he gets help.
There's definitely another side of this, which is, did administrators at the school do enough? Should they have brought Child Protective Services in earlier? And you can definitely make that case
100%. Well. And that's where the issue of precedent comes into play. Because if you can hold the parents accountable for their side of it, then you could hold the school accountable for their side of it. And then it becomes just an absolute mess. And nobody outside of this kid or almost adult intended for this to happen. I don't, I fully believe that those parents did not want him to go to that school and shoot up the school. It is a really tough, it's a very tough case to wrap your mind around because there are really two sides to that argument, and both are good arguments. Us as parents aren't perfect, as that attorney said, and maybe they were doing the best that they knew to do, but I do agree with you that, maybe they should have sought some help. There were some warning signs there. It's tough. It's a tough one. I do have a lot of concern about precedent, though, because if you can hold someone responsible for that, for a 15-year-old kid now, this is not a 10-year-old or 12-year-old even. This is damn near an adult. If you can hold the parent responsible for that, where does that end? And that's the kind of the scary thing for me.
No, it's the slippery slope is the scary part. I do think that this case, if it were truly treated as an exception and it's just an outlier and it's over here because you have parents whose behavior borders, on neglect, and a school that, as you said, didn't do things maybe the school should have done. But if it becomes the case everyone points to turn every situation that comes up that bears any similarity into it into the same kind of thing, then we're going to be seeing tons of these kinds of situations. Not necessarily school shootings, hopefully, but tons of situations where the parents are held accountable for the behavior of their teenage kids. And
in a lot of cases had nothing to do with it. Maybe they were doing the best they could and that kid just decided to join a gang and or whatever the situation may be. So we'll keep you posted on it, I'm sure. Well, ever been to Las Vegas? I know you've been there probably a million times at least. I have been there several times as well. And I've actually stayed at the hotel in which this story I'm about to tell you came out of.
You said the Venetian? Is that what you said?
It is the Venetian. A Southern California man is suing a luxury resort hotel in Las Vegas after he says he was stung by a scorpion on his testicles while he was in bed. That's what I said. Michael Ferracci says while he and his family were sleeping at the Venetian's Palazzo Tower, he jolted awake in excruciating pain as he was stung. I woke up with a sharp pain in my private area. I was surprised. I wonder if he really said private area, if he just said, balls. But I didn't know what it was. I reached my hand down to see what was happening under the cover and got another sharp pain. And then another sharp pain, he said. Ferracci said he was stung at least 3 or 4 times by the scorpion, who was about an inch long. Its exact species and the toxicity of its venom is not clear. I put my eyeglasses on and I was shocked that I have a scorpion over there hanging on my underwear. He was treated at a local hospital and filed a report with the hotel staff. And get this, y'all, he still had to pay for the room.
What?
Yes, they didn't even comp the room, Mike. In Vegas, where you get comps on rooms, playing slots. The Palazzo didn't even apologize for what happened when I met with the hotel manager, and they just charged me for the room, the restaurant, and whatever else I used. No apologies, no nothing. So he's now suing the resort for an unspecified amount. He said the incident traumatized him. He still has lingering medical issues. Ferracci's attorney, Brian Varg, says this is not the first time scorpions have been found in guest rooms at the Venetian. The resort told a local TV station that there are protocols for such incidents. Well, if you have protocols for such incidents, it's definitely occurred before, and theirs were followed on this one. And I want to shout out Lori Johnson for sending this story, but wow, bit by a scorpion in the plums.
Okay, that's the worst kind of bed bug in history, but but something's funky here. This is I don't know who owns that one. It's one of the big owners, but that's I
think MGM maybe.
It's at one of the nicer. At one point, it was in the before a lot of these ones got built in the last few years. It was a top shelf resort there. There's many great restaurants there. There's no way that they just. If it was clear that this guy got stung in one of their rooms that way. There's no way they don't do the right thing and compliment, try and keep. That's freaking impossible. So I don't know.
So
I think
you're calling bullshit on his.
I'm saying it smells like the resort doesn't believe his story, because that's such an easy the press impact alone of that story is orders of magnitude more damaging than comping a room to this guy. And
I would agree.
So there's got to be more. But man, is that scary about next time I'm in the desert going to sleep. In fact, I stayed out at a guy's place in Possum Kingdom, Texas. It's a long story I won't get into, but when we first got to the house, he hadn't been there in a while. He lived in Dallas and had this place on this lake about an hour and a half outside of Dallas. And he went through and did a once over of the house and came back and made us stand outside while he did it. And he came out with a mason jar that had, 6, 8 scorpions in it. And he's like, I just had to do a check for critters before we went in there. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
You look at those things. Wait, I'm going to sleep in this friggin' house and you just found that many when you.
Right.
He goes, well, I'm not here for a while. That'll happen, but we'll just keep an eye out but you'll be all right. But man, that would scare the living crap out of me. But something's funky there.
Yeah. Well,
we'll see.
Maybe they'll pull out.
But
pictures
also, it was only 1 inch. That's a tiny.
That's a
tiny one. That's a baby.
Yeah.
I don't know. Sometimes the babies have like what rattlers are saying, they have the most toxic venom. So maybe it's worse to get bit by one of those. But anyway, we're going to go to my old home turf, Long Island, for a really strange story that, unfortunately, again, there's a lot of blanks to fill in here, but you may have seen this over the last couple of days because it's been in the news. 4 people are in custody after severed body parts of a man and woman were found scattered around Long Island late last week. The arrest came on Tuesday after cops raided a home on Railroad Avenue in Amityville. That was on late Monday. They did
Amityville.
So I'll give you my thoughts on Amityville in just a bit. Although cops didn't find any human remains at the home, they did find some more dismembered limbs hidden in Bethpage State Park and in a wooded area of West Babylon, according to the Suffolk County Police. Authorities believe the newly discovered remains belong to the same 2 people whose body parts were found on February 29th, that's last Thursday, in a park in Babylon, Long Island. So Babylon, West Babylon, Bethpage, Amityville, these are all towns that are, well, Babylon was one town away from the town I grew up in. Shout out to my best buddy from Babylon High School, Kathleen Bondere. Hey, Kathleen. So these towns are all right next to each other. So they killed these people and then spread the body parts, dropped different body parts but they didn't bury them. They didn't try and hide the body parts. The body parts were just right there for people to find. And
crazy.
The original parts that were found on Thursday in Babylon were found by a young girl as she was walking to school. So although they haven't publicly identified the victims, they say the assortment of limbs belongs to a 59-year-old woman and a 53-year-old man. So if they know how old they are, they know who they are. They just haven't publicly said who they are, right? Both of whom lived at the same address in the city of Yonkers. So the people that were killed were from Westchester County, which is more than an hour away from where they get killed, but then they get chopped up and spread around these different locations on Long Island. The apartment the cops raided was in Amityville. And Jim, you said Amityville before. Yes, that's the town the Amityville Horror was based upon. And it's also the town that Jaws, the book, was based upon. You may remember in the movie they called it Amity Island because they wanted to shoot on Martha's Vineyard, and so they had to make the setting an island. But it was Amityville in Peter Benchley's original novel. But the Amityville Horror House, a big thing for us to do in high school, and when you'd go there, there'd actually be a number of cars parked there. Is people would go and drink in their cars, you get a group of buddies, and you'd yell at the ghosts. You just get out of the car and do stupid things.
That sounds like fun.
Stupid things to try and taunt the ghosts because it was folklore that was so bought into by everybody around that area because it all came out about the same time.
The actual house.
Yeah.
People live in that house?
I think it stayed empty for a little bit of time. It may now have been flattened for all I know. But yeah, people did. I mean, it's a story. Come on.
Right.
But anyway, the Suffolk County Police say based on the investigation, this appears to be an isolated incident. There's no threat to the public, but the investigation is continuing. They had not mentioned a motive for the killings. The police hadn't. But then NBC New York got an exclusive, and they came out and declared that this was about a love triangle. And so if you piece together, well, they know who the two victims are from Yonkers. They made the arrest of these people at this Amityville apartment. And so they've obviously connected all of those people in some kind of relationship or three-way relationship. And it should just be a matter of, a day or two before they actually clue us in, because they've left, other than this leaked report to NBC about a love triangle, they've not done anything that connected. They've not shared anything that connects the folks arrested in Amityville with the two people who were murdered from Yonkers. So anyway, that's where this thing stands at the moment. And when we get the rest of the story with the blanks filled in, we will share them with you. But
Yonkers.
What famous serial killer was from Yonkers?
Ted Bundy.
Son of Sam. David Berkowitz.
Should know that.
From Yonkers.
We did a whole thing on that.
So we got Son of Sam, we got the Amityville Horror, we got Jaws, we got a little bit of everything, including Kathleen Vonderay, wrapped into that story.
Ted Bundy was from Oregon, I believe. Actually,
somewhere in
Washington. Yeah. All right. A Waco, Texas man who installed an Apple AirTag on a woman's car to track her down has been arrested. 39-year-old Hugo Mendez is charged with unlawfully installing a tracking device. Police say a woman began getting AirTag notifications on her phone. She did not own an AirTag, so she became a little bit suspicious about that. After searching for an AirTag device near her, she eventually found a magnetic box attached to the underside of her vehicle. I would imagine, back in the day, they had those magnetic boxes and you stick your spare key in them to your car and then, stick them under your car. Nobody would look there, right? So probably similar to that. And inside that metal box was the Apple AirTag. Now, for those that are unfamiliar, that's a tracking device meant to keep track of personal belongings in the event they're lost. Since being introduced to the market, the nearly quarter-sized devices have been used for a lot of nefarious purposes, such as tracking would-be victims. The woman contacted police after learning about her findings. Police obtained a subpoena, and they serve it to Apple. And they later find out that the tracker belonged to Mendez. Police called Mendez, and he admitted to placing the device on the woman's vehicle, but he had an excuse. And this is where it gets interesting. He tells police he thought the woman hit his vehicle and fled the scene. So he followed the vehicle in order to find out who was responsible. After following the vehicle, Mendez told police he waited for the driver to return to the car, but they never did, and he had to go. So instead, he put the AirTag in a magnetic box and attached it to the vehicle. Yeah, I don't believe that for a second.
I don't know how long he had to concoct that story, but it's pretty good if it was on the fly.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure he had it in his head in the event he ever got caught, because it's almost too, it's a good excuse, but sounds like bullshit to me. Mendez was ultimately arrested because the police also thought that was BS, and he is held in the McLennan County Jail on a $2,000 bond. But this is the bad side of technology in a lot of ways, especially, these things are little bitty, the size of a quarter.
Yeah, no, Apple's gotten there've been a bunch of stories like this, some with worse outcomes than this, that I don't know what they're going to be able to do to make this safer. But
it's a great device if you're using it for the right reasons. You've got maybe a valuable or something that, because it's small enough where it can be concealed and whoever steals it won't know that their tag even exists. Or I know people that use them as keychains for the keys. Mm-hmm. So it's a great little device for that. But yeah, check the underside of your vehicle, folks. Pay attention to your notifications. Some
of the great technology becomes great technology for the bad guys to leverage. So
100%.
Seen a lot of that.
Yep.
Hey, y'all, let me tell you about Gobble. All Gobble meal kits are pre-prepped. That means less work for you and less waste in your kitchen. Their meal kits include everything you need so you can save time at the store or just skip that trip entirely. I got the box in and I had 3 different meals. I had a Kung Pao chicken, crispy fish tacos, and a beef bourguignon, however you say it. But let me tell you about the classic beef bourguignon. Look, it came with beef pot roast and a beef broth concentrate, red wine demi-glaze, cremini mushrooms, cipollone onions, mashed potatoes, baby carrots, and rosemary thyme butter. It was so easy to make. Literally like 15 minutes it took Cindy. And let me tell you something, all the dishes were fire, but this thing was like a taste explosion in my mouth. It's just unreal. We've got to spend more time together and more time doing the things we love because everything came in this one single box right to my door. So see what a difference Gobble will make for your household. Right now, they're offering my listeners a fantastic limited time deal. You get $120 off across 4 boxes plus free shipping and free cookies. And let me tell you, those cookies, I ate one that was sin baked and it was delicious. Go to gobble.com/real life. That's GOBBLE.com/real life for $120 off your first 4 boxes. This offer is not available on the home site, so don't miss out. This is genius. It's taste explosions in your mouth like you never had.
Oh, let's go revisit yet again one of our favorite cases, the Scott Peterson, Lacey Peterson.
That would be your favorite case, Mike,
well,
not ours.
It's one of these stories that just never goes away. And last month,
we're all thinking the same thing.
Last month, the I-Team reported, Woody scoffed, but the I-Team reported that Scott Peterson's case could be getting a second look thanks to work on his behalf being done by the LA Innocence Project. Mm-hmm. And now a status hearing has been scheduled for next week. So there will be what is the date? The date is the 12th. It will be done before California Superior Court Judge Elizabeth Hill.
So that's Monday.
Is the 12th Monday?
Yeah.
No.
Yep.
No, my son's birthday was
Tuesday.
That was when I think it's Tuesday maybe.
Tuesday.
Yeah. Peterson is not going to appear in person. He's going to appear on Zoom. He's 51 years old now, if you can imagine that. And he was convicted on 2 counts of first-degree murder back in 2004 and was sentenced to death in 2005. But in 2020, he was given a chance to face a new penalty phase trial after his death penalty sentence was overturned by the California Supreme Court. The reason it was overturned was because of a jury selection error by the trial judge. We'll get into that briefly. But the California Supreme Court also ruled at that time that a lower court should take a look at his case to determine whether his guilty verdict should be overturned because of that situation with the juror. So in 2021, Peterson's death sentence was officially vacated and he was resentenced to life in prison. In 2022, a San Mateo County Superior Court judge followed the 2020 California Supreme Court, which requested that the case be reviewed to determine whether Peterson deserves a new trial. So this request for a new trial was based upon the claim that a juror in the case, her name is Rochelle Nice, had lied during jury selection when she was asked if she had ever been a victim of a crime. She said no, but later admitted that she neglected to disclose that she had obtained a restraining order against her then-boyfriend's ex-girlfriend back in 2001. Nice also neglected to mention that she had a fight with her ex-boyfriend that resulted in her arrest. Peterson's defense asserted that Nice intentionally lied on her jury questionnaire and that she may have been a prosecution stealth juror. She may have been very aggressively seeking the conviction. The defense alleged that Nice's motive was to profit off of the case because after Peterson was convicted, Nice wrote 17 letters to him in jail. She also co-authored a book with other jurors and appeared on several shows, including the Dr. Oz show. But in the ruling that the San Mateo Superior Court judge, whose name was Anne Christine Masulo, made, she decided that Nice's misstatements were honest mistakes and resentenced him to life instead of the death sentence. So presumably the LA Innocence Project will present some of that same evidence about the former juror, as well as evidence supporting their alternative theory for the case. And that theory is that Laci Peterson was killed after she witnessed men breaking into a neighbor's house across the street while she was walking the family dog, while Scott was on this solo fishing trip on Christmas Eve morning. They are also hoping to conduct new DNA testing on a blood-stained mattress that was found on December 25th in a burned-out van that was believed to belong to the people responsible for the home break-ins that were discovered in the neighborhood. So, and they're heavily relying on that. And look, I think there's no reason that if there is blood on the mattress found in that van that was the van used by the people that robbed houses in the neighborhood, what harm could come from looking at that blood? I don't know. But the investigation, they say, will determine if the item contained Laci's blood, which could be argued links her back to the burglars rather than Scott. So put the status hearing on your calendar, March 12th, and hopefully we'll get to the end of at least another chapter of the Laci Peterson, Scott Peterson story.
I hope so. The story's just played out for me.
So does Woody and the board.
And the board. And it is a Mile High Crime for Friday. And we're going to Waterloo, Ontario, Canada.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Iowa.
Nope. Ontario, Canada's Waterloo. And they have a couple that is grateful to be back home after they say they were detained for several hours at Punta Cana Airport, accused of carrying drugs. Jamie and Dan Yank traveled to the Dominican Republic, and they go there often, but they had a problem this time around. Never had a problem before earlier this month. The couple said that their luggage was flagged at the airport before they boarded their flight back to Waterloo. Jamie said she and several other passengers were taken in for questioning. She said this is where she learned her luggage was being inspected for an illegal substance. When we walked into the room, there was a white substance on the table. They explained they'll be testing the product for cocaine on a cocaine test wipe. Heinrich.
That's what you would use a cocaine test plate to test.
That's what they said. Heinrich Anderson said his family were 4 of 12 passengers that were actually taken in for the questioning. It was his daughter, his 8-year-old, whose suitcase it was. So they asked for her as well.
Oh my God.
Anderson said the instant security tested the substance, the wipe turned blue, indicating it was positive for cocaine. So the daughter freaks out. She's grabbing, the dad tightly, and it was obviously traumatizing to her. The passengers involved had packed, get this, a bag of damp red, a moisture absorber, which can appear to look similar to cocaine. I actually have a damp red that you hang in your closet and just, it'll soak up a little moisture. The passengers involved had a bag of that damp red, and the wife said she remembers turning to her husband and saying, "Am I going to Dominican jail tonight?" That was Jamie, his wife, and Scott Blanchard, a former police officer, said there's been a huge drug problem moving through several Caribbean countries, including the Dominican Republic. You're not in Canada anymore, and you can be liable and susceptible to their laws. The couple said they paid around $1,000 out of pocket to get home the next day, but they wonder how household product can be mistaken for illegal drugs. They were going to detain us based on a wet wipe, Dan Yank said. The couple said they purchased the same test kits police used and claimed the damp rig caused a false positive when they tried it at home. So last month, the University of Pennsylvania actually released a study showing that presumptive field drug test kits are known to produce false positive errors and were never designed or intended to provide what's known as conclusive evidence. At the University of Waterloo, chemistry professors actually discovered the pink cocaine test wipes contain cobalt thiocyanate, which turns blue when it comes into contact with cocaine. The test strips are packaged damp and will also turn blue when the moisture inside dries up. So when cobalt is wet, it is pink in color. Damp red is a dehydrating agent. It will suck moisture out of the environment or localized environment, such as a test strip. Once the damp red touches the wipe, it will instantly turn blue and cause a false positive for cocaine. So moral of that story is don't pack damp red in your suitcase.
Well, and so once they figured out what happened,
well, they let him go.
Well, they had to go $1,000 out of pocket, which
to catch a flight home the next day.
So the government didn't do anything to pay for their flights.
You would have thought they would have, though, but no, they did not. The Dominican Republic basically said, "You're on your own. We're sorry. It's not our fault."
Oh my God!
Yeah,
they must have gone to the same training program as the people at the Palazzo.
Yeah, that's and it does. It could look like cocaine, and then you test it and comes up.
That's
the right color.
That's a crazy one, and an 8-year-old girl.
That's right.
We got a dummy. We got a dummy some people may have heard of, and I am betting that Jim, because of his vast knowledge of 1980s baseball, will remember today's dummy. Do you remember a guy that played for the Dodgers and the Cardinals named Pedro Guerrero?
Yeah, of course I do.
Very good player. It was a 4 or 5 time All-Star. Yeah. And Pedro is a part of today's dumb criminals. In fact, Pedro is today's dumb criminal.
What?
And here's how. It seems Pedro tried to buy some yayo from an undercover cop. It was actually a lot of yayo from the undercover cop. It was 33 pounds of yayo he tried to buy from the undercover cop. But it turns out that Pedro is such a dumb criminal that Pedro's lack of intelligence was actually his defense in this case. Guerrero's attorney claimed that his client's IQ was so low that he didn't even realize he was involved in a drug deal.
Well, there's one defense.
Well, guess what? That one defense worked because Guerrero was acquitted because his IQ was documented as 70.
Oh, wow.
He had a 70 IQ. So I guess see baseball, hit baseball was as complicated as it got for Pedro. Right?
Yeah.
But I did hear that he is learning how to play the banjo at this point.
Yes, he is.
Acquitted because you're a dummy.
I don't believe he really had a 70 IQ. Though. He probably failed that test on purpose.
Well, people around the game probably, because back then you still didn't have a lot of bilingual coaches and people in management. The guy didn't speak any English, so a lot of the management of the team probably didn't know that.
Yeah, but 70 is really bad.
Yeah, I don't know the IQ scale well, but it's crazy that would get you acquitted. And I don't know the circumstances around why he was put in the position of trying to purchase the 33 pounds of yayo, but that's a good one. It's a good way out.
Yeah.
I'm a dummy.
Well, thoughts and prayers to
yes, Woody,
and we will be back Monday.
Yeah, and I feel for him. He's got all those people in town too, for the boar hunt. So I don't know how Woody's going to manage everything he's got to manage this weekend, but we're thinking about you, buddy.
All right. Until next time, I'm Jim Chapman.
And I'm Mike Agavino.
And for Woody Everton, we're your host of Real Life, Real Crime Daily. Peace.
Aglets.
You got a fist bump me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Early holiday savings have arrived at Tanger Outlets. Discover the best gifts from your favorite brands, perfect for everyone on your list. And stack your savings with up to 70% off, plus an extra 15 to 25% off only during Tanger Style. Save at Polo Ralph Lauren, Old Navy Outlet, Under Armour, Skechers, J. Crew Factory, and more. Hurry in. These early holiday deals last through November 24th. Tanger Outlets. More savings, more cheer.